Hey guys, what's up? It's La, welcoming ya to another episode of Car Rides Wit SLA. And today I have some great news to report. There was the first ever comment on a video from someone just from YouTube. I was shocked, and it was, I don't know, because it's been a while. I've been doing this, and that's the first time I've seen any kind of actual response from anybody that isn't somebody I already know, that I'm just telling about my channel. And I don't remember exactly what the video is, but it is a video that caught on, because some of them, I don't know, they just get a little bit more views than others. Some get no views, or like 2 or 3, and then there's like 3 of my videos that have gotten 15, which, of course, probably hearing that and thinking like, dude, what? Like, that is nothing. Are you good? But to me, I'm just, it's distinct. I mean, it's like 10 times higher than some of the other videos, or maybe not quite 10 times higher, but you see what I'm saying? It's about proportion. It's about in comparison to the things that I usually get. But anyways, he said he listened to the whole thing, and it was a good commentary about, this is I think the title of the video is something like, it's a war, and he was commenting on this idea that I said in that video, where you need to have some kind of imperative. And I'm assuming this was a video where I touched on this topic, where my family and my school, just based on the time period or whatever, well, family, not time, well, yeah, I guess time period affects how you were raised, because certain people, I'm sure, raised differently based on the year you were born in, just due to slight societal trends. But that is a stereotypical or generalizing way of looking at it. Obviously, regardless of what year you were born, you would technically still be, you could have a different, because it's still subjective, but if you're looking at it from a trend analysis, is what I was talking about. And how I was given a gentle upbringing, and I guess there's a lot of good that comes with that, because, yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot of good that comes along with a gentle upbringing. It's just that it's a grass is greener on the other side of the fence kind of thing. People who grew up strict, they probably would be like, oh, I would love to just have like a chill dad, a chill mom. And then for me, I had allegedly a good, it's kind of the thing you would want, like, never had to do chores and just really chill about things. Like, a lot of people would want that. But it's a grass is greener on the other side of the fence kind of thing, and it's something that you think about more when you're older. In the moment, sure, when I was a kid, it was all great. When you're a child, you want as least amount of pressure as possible. That's what you want when you're a child, because when I was younger, that is what I wanted and what I thought was going to help me. That's why I was skeptical to work, to want to work, and I wanted to just drop out of school, because I thought, I don't actually know what I was thinking at the time, but I did want to drop out of high school, mainly because I didn't see it as being very useful, which I do agree. If I had dropped out when I was 16, I don't think my life would be all that different. And that is interesting to think about and consider, is most likely my life would have been the same. And it possibly could have been better. So the job I ended up getting and I have now, I guess it's possible that you need a high school degree to do it, but I don't even know if you necessarily do. I don't know if you actually need a high school degree, and so I could have dropped out when I was 16, and I think I would have actually matured faster. I think school was sort of... I think being in school for those last 2 years actually slowed down my maturity. I don't really think anything was learned specifically that was that profound or consequential, and there was a lot of ability to just slack off and fool around, and exposure to other people who were slacking off and fooling around. And it kind of limited me in a big way. Like, I think if I would have dropped out when I was 16 and got hit with the freedom that I got hit with when I was 18, my life would be fundamentally different. I know it would be, and I think it's possible I would have regretted it. Sure. I would have regretted dropping out, but I may have actually ended up getting a job sooner. Like, I could have more money right now as a consequence of that, because there would have been, like I said, if I dropped out when I was 18, it took me not even 2 years, I think, into just being... Yeah, not even 2 years. It may have only taken like 1 year after graduating high school and just living in utter freedom that I had enough of that. I did not want to do that anymore, and I wanted to get a job. It's just I didn't end up doing... I actually was going to do an interview, and then I completely forgot. And then I remembered, like, 2 days later, I was like, wow, I just didn't even... So that really hurt me, you know? I guess we have to assume that was divine fate, but of course that's the coping strategy. I hope everything has some bigger orchestration to it, because I would be in a lot better condition if I got that job. Which I could have, and I don't really know what I did. You know, like, I just forgot I had scheduled an interview. At the time, I was going kind of crazy, though. I was in a manic kind of state, which I do think... See, it's kind of tricky, because I thought I could have had bipolar, but now... I'm not certain of that anymore. I still do have manic swings and tendencies with things, but I don't know if I could really get a full bipolar categorization. I just don't know if I really hit it. That's kind of my opinion about that. But back then, I think I would have gotten diagnosed with that, because I really was in a crazy state, and then I was going to get a job, and I'm trying to say that's probably why I ended up forgetting. And moral of the story, it didn't take me long sitting and living at home to get tired of that, which is weird, because a lot of people probably would have just milked the heck out of my situation if they could. But I didn't even want to do that. Like, I just, and I've said this before, it's just the days kept going on, and I just could not stop thinking about the fact that I wasn't making money. I just couldn't, it was stressful. Like, I didn't know how my future was going to turn out, and I would try to cope with it. But it was ultimately just something that I thought was too stressful for me to deal with. And I guess some people aren't like that. Obviously, the main thing I've noticed about humans in general in comparison to me is I'm always thinking ahead. Like, I'm always, like, it is so hard for me. There's very few things that I do that actually can distract me from the future. And so that's the difference, is I do think there's a lot of people who are NEETs who... Sorry, I was just in my head thinking of whether or not I should explain what a NEET is. I guess I should. Not in education, employment, or training is a NEET. There's a lot of people who are NEETs who are fine with it. Now, I guess that's just what they say, and you could argue there's immaturity with that, perhaps, but there are a lot of people, I think, who are fine with it just because of how much the human mind seems to just be uniquely poor at planning and trajectory. It's really only good at thinking about present needs and present issues, and I guess that makes sense because in the wild, that is kind of how it is. You wouldn't necessarily be doing well if you were always anxious about the future. But in this day and age, things are a lot more technical. They're a lot more intellectual, and they're a lot more complicated. There's almost nothing you could do that's more important than thinking about the future and planning ahead in this day and age. And I've said this before. I think I'm one of the few people I know that really has a grasp of what's going on economically. That there is going to be some bad stuff happening pretty soon. It's no joke. And you know what? A lot of people do think it's going to be bad, but what I'm saying is I don't know if they know the gravity of it. I think people's projections, in my estimation, are a bit too gentle. That would be, I guess I'm predicting a darker, harsher future, as opposed to most people. I think they're a little bit more hopeful than I am, and so I will be transparent about that. I guess I lean into a bit of pessimism. And it's not out of inaccuracy, because I don't think pessimistically, or I try to think accurately, and I'm basing this off of the data and the trends that are going on right now. And I guess what I mean to say is that I'm more pessimistic than the human perceptive baseline. So if humans are thinking... I'm saying I'm more pessimistic than the humans' perceptive median of the trajectory of which things will go. That's where I'm at. And I think it's personally closer to what the truth is. So I just keep telling people, get ready. get used to it. And there's going to be, like I said, some kind of filtering that goes on where I'm not sure what's going to happen. And we've talked about, well, could there be revolution? I don't even know. Like I've said, I think people are very weak. I think there probably would have already been revolution if it would not have gotten to this point if people were going to revolt. I just don't think people are going to revolt. People will revolt on the internet and type very explosively worded rants and tweets and make very explosive TikToks. But in terms of actual action, people are not going to really do anything. There's so many people already who are just, and this is what they say about themselves, they're so tired. They don't have motivation. They don't even have motivation to work anyway. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I kind of theorize even if you made everybody have a living wage, like if we made, and I know there's a debate about if you do that, everybody else's wages would get affected. Yeah, I know. But I'm just saying in a hypothetical scenario, if you took everybody who works in this country and they all got bumped to $20 an hour right now, and nobody else's wages got affected. Everybody else stayed the same, but the bottom got brought up to $20 an hour. I do think you would see people's mood and vibe improve. I do think you would, but it would be less than you would think. I still think, and I truly believe this, that a lot of the issues we're seeing are not only financial and economic, but cultural and in a lot of ways technological, meaning there is inherent difficulty in humans interacting with the modern medium of reality. And I truly believe that even if you gave a lot of people more money, and don't get me wrong, of course people would be happier as a baseline. I'm not saying that people would just take that. I know how difficult it is and how much people need more money than they have, specifically at lower incomes. It's not working. I think a $20 minimum wage would be very reasonable in this day and age. That's kind of what anybody should be making really at the floor. Given the way the economy is right now, it's a super reasonable minimum wage. Would be, like 20 an hour. It's just totally reasonable. That's not even, so the fact that such a large segment still makes in the teens, it's showing that something is not adding up. Something's not working. The fact that companies can't, well, maybe companies could afford to do it, but I know the way my company does it, and I'm assuming this is how companies work, is they just do the bare minimum based on what the market's doing. So it's not based on cost of living, I don't think. I think it's based on, it probably is somewhat, but it's based on what's the lowest. They probably just have some software. I'll look into this, but this is my guess, and it could be more archaic than the truth, so don't. Like I said, I try to be careful about that. If I don't know something to be true, then I'll try to specify it whenever I can. It doesn't, I'm not sure that it matters, because even when I know I'm right, people still argue with me, even though I have a really, really high track record of being correct in terms of intuition about things. People will still argue with me, and it's frustrating, even though, when I am wrong, I like to say, this is a guess, I think a lot of people they probably just guess a lot of different things and don't really think about it. I don't know. But back to what I was saying. Of course, I hardly even remember at this point. Yeah, what am I talking about? I hate when I do that. You notice I do that a lot. I'll be talking about something and then another topic comes up and then I'll want to mention that. Yeah, what were we talking about? It was talking about wages and then 20 being a good wage and then something I wasn't sure about. I was doing some guesswork. I don't know, that stinks, but we got to keep the show moving, so my apologies, guys. Has been happening a little more recently, though, which is not good. Maybe I need to do the TLDRs with SLA to cultivate my memory muscle a little bit stronger. I remember. Okay, so intuition about this is what I think goes on behind the scenes, and again, I could be completely wrong. I'm not trying to conspire. This is just an educated guess. I think what these companies use are software that looks out to see what a fair wage would be, but I think the reality of it is they look out to see what the lowest they can absolutely charge would be. That's what I think's going on. So I'm assuming how my company works is they're not basing it off of MIT's cost of living analysis, for example, which in most of the states and areas I've looked at is anywhere from 26 to 27 an hour for a living wage. Which obviously I think most Americans don't even make, if I had to imagine. I don't think most Americans make 26 to 27. I really would have to believe that. But that's what I'm maybe even 25. I don't remember. It's just most I've seen are 26 or 27. Is what it says a living wage would be for the cities and states I've looked at. And so, no, like, the company does not look at that at all. They just go to a company that I'm assuming scouts out and looks at competing companies and what they pay their employees, and it kind of just makes it as low as possible. I'm assuming that is where we're at. And so that could be a reason why wages are lower. And I'm making this guess because they did it with rent. There was and is, they use AI to calculate how high they can make the rent, so it pushes it up artificially as much as possible. Now, there's contributing costs with that too. I don't know how much I've talked about this point on the channel, but I do think there is this laziness with things and a laziness and a lack of skilled workers in a lot of these important electrical fields or all other things. And when you have such a high cost of living floor, and I'm going to explain this because a lot of people don't get it usually, but when I say floor and ceiling, it means like the minimum and maximum threshold. So when I'm saying a floor is the cost of living floor is very high in America. And so the problem when you have that is that a lot of these rougher jobs, like being an electrician, being a plumber, essential jobs, they're not going to not get paid enough. You know, they're going to get paid enough because they're essential work. And if you start having people, oh, that's too rough, I don't want to do it, then pretty bad stuff starts happening pretty quickly. So their wages, I don't think, are as affected by economic circumstances such as an aggressively high cost of living floor. Now, that being said, I don't know that that's... I'm not looking at any data. This is, again, just guesswork. So I'm sure there are also electricians and plumbers who aren't paid very well. You could make that argument. But I'm saying in comparison to, I think, more social... I'm thinking like social workers, but I'm thinking mostly of service worker. That's what I'm thinking of. If somebody works fast food, I mean, it's not a desirable job, but it's not a hard job. And so those wages are probably going to be the ones that more noticeably lag behind somebody like a plumber or an electrician, because the fast food joints aren't necessary. They're just not... They're not necessary for the well-being of things. Like the fast food joint, they need an electrician to come in. They need a plumber to come in. You see what I'm saying? So their wages and their salary is less affected by the low floor, because if people stop working those jobs, demand and the value of the job goes up very quickly. And then that's probably already happened, if I had to imagine. I'm assuming there could actually be less car mechanics and people like that nowadays than there once were, in proportion to the amount of cars. Now, of course, in the past, you didn't even have that many cars. And also, they were much less complex, so you could fix it yourself probably. Which, I mean, we can only imagine nowadays having like a system like that where you buy a car and it's just the bare bones minimum of what a car should be, and you could probably service it completely yourself, and how much money that would save. But we're kind of in this position where that's not the case anymore, and it's hard to get cars like that, or the cars that are like that are very old, and so a lot of them haven't been maintained properly, so that's like another issue. And then, of course, at this point, a lot of the newer cars are just that much better in terms of ride comfort and things like that. But yeah, I mean, it does beg the question. There was a time where, I'm assuming, and this is another assumption, I don't know if it's correct, but it's my intuition. Just like with other things, in the past, people cooked more of their own food. They probably fixed more of their own things. They fixed more of their car. They fixed more of their car. What am I... Well, yeah, I mean, that make it's just like kind of a silly sounding way to put it. They were more self-sufficient when it came to servicing and car repairs and things like that. And yeah, there's still some cars like that probably still around. I'm assuming the 2000s, you could have had some cars that were still very simple and easy to do on your own. I think so, but it was probably mostly the 90s that was the last of that. Probably the 90s and I really think once the 2010s started to come around, there was a lot more complexity. And even the 2000s, I think you were starting to get more complex car design and things like that. So this is just all guesses. I don't really know. I do have to get gas now, so I will be back momentarily. Although I have been editing the video, but if I was lazy and I didn't edit the video, then there's going to be a long pause momentarily. So hope you guys have fun waiting for me to get my gas. Yeah, guys, we were actually pretty quick today. I don't know. I was really just on top of things, I think. But I'm going to need to be because I really wanted to get out really early, and of course I did get out early, but I could have been out even earlier, really, and we're looking like we won't even be doing as good as last time, so it's just kind of silly. That usually ends up happening. I'm usually in just a few minutes, I notice. Now, of course, I'm not even remotely late. I'm actually still going to be earlier than usual, but I did kind of want to get into more of a earlier vibe. Or, well, I want to push it more if I can. You know what Sorry, this guy, I don't know, he's being a little bit weird. He was like going for a turn, and I don't think he should have been going for a turn, so I guess it depends on light luck. It always depends on light luck. It always depends. Now, well, what does light luck really change, though? Like 2 minutes, maybe? Yeah, I'm not sure. You know, it's kind of annoying because I thought we were having a really good conversation, and I totally, like, when I got the gas, I just completely blanked out because I was thinking so much about getting the gas quickly. So, like, last time when I got gas, I didn't even have my wallet ready. And recently, that's what I've been doing is I would have my wallet and my card out and ready. And that would be like a really good situation, obviously. Because you just open the door and then bam. And so now today I realized I can preemptively reach as far ahead as possible. Like, so I just nailed it. Like, I literally probably got my gas the fastest I've ever gotten it. And then when I was done, while the gas was filling up, I put the card back in my wallet and my wallet back. Like, everything was just done. You know what I mean? Everything was just completely done. I actually would have made it through here and gotten another good light, but there are trash trucks in front of me. So I got hit. Well, I didn't get hit. I mean, I got hit time-wise, not physically, of course. I did not physically get hit. I got hit with the red light, and I wouldn't have got hit with the red light. So, yep. And then it looks like somebody's grumbly. No, actually, I don't know what they're doing. They just didn't have their turn signal on. Always confuses me. Always confuses me, but whatever. We're doing okay today. We are doing all right. Yeah, but I really liked the show earlier today, and I think the train of thought is just lost. I think it's in another station, and I'm just gonna leave it rest. I'm not gonna try to dig and figure out what I was saying and do all this crazy, like, I'm just not gonna do that. But yeah, I do think there's one last kind of final push I want to do in terms of when I leave to come to work, because I've been progressively pushing it more and more and more, and then I've kind of decided I hit the limit. But I think there is one final limit to push the envelope just a little bit more. So I think it's about like 10 minutes earlier than I have been, 10 or 15 minutes earlier. And that will be it. I don't think I'm ever going to be earlier than that. But of course, this is all hedging on if I can continue to get the hours or not, which we will probably find out pretty soon, in like 2 or 3 weeks. So it all depends, but for the time being, I do think we're really close to, I think, the absolute best I would really do. We're very close. I think it's just, again, I just want to try to be about 10 to 15 minutes earlier than I have been. So it's interesting. I mean, where I'm at, I think we will end up making all right time, I guess. But I still would probably have wanted to be just a few minutes sooner than this. That's my estimation, and I think I intended on that for sure. That was my intention, but it's kind of difficult, and there's not a clear reward, obviously. So, well, the reward is like a few cents more money or something, but that's not enough of a reward, is it? No, we're actually doing good. This could be the earliest I've ever been here. I think the last time I got gas, that was the earliest I had ever been here, and now this will be the earliest I've ever been here. So interesting, good to know, all that stuff. And yeah, here we are. Usual. Well, not usual. Yeah, this will be the earliest for sure. For certain. This will end up being the earliest, I think. Yep, it's the earliest by a minute. The last time I had to get gas, it was the same kind of situation, a minute in earliness. But this is really what I would really want. For what I want is this as the usual, and then yeah, no, probably still a few minutes earlier than this. Yeah, so whenever I left today, it would have to be, yeah, even 5 minutes earlier than I left today. Because I'm trying to think, even with the gas. No, I guess with the gas, we'll have to experiment, I guess. I guess we'll have to experiment. We could try it tomorrow to see how that works out. Definitely. I guess we'll see. Well, guys, I think that just about does it for Car Rides Wit SLA. Hope you enjoyed. And as usual, stay sloppy. Now it's been SLA, but now it's time to buy SLA. So, see you, SLA.